What's happening in Russia right now isn't what you think it is. While it might seem like Wagner forces are just backing down and everything seems normal, this couldn't be any further from the truth. Now, it all began on Saturday morning, June 24th, 2023. The head of the Wagner Group, Prigozhin, announced that his army was en route to Moscow and ready to take over the Kremlin, with their private military tanks now surrounding and taking control of the Russian Defense Ministry in Rostov, all as the Wagner Group calls for an armed revolution against the Russian government. And as crazy as it sounds, Russia could very well be on the brink of a gigantic change, as the Wagner chief has been seen casually meeting the commander of the Southern Military District, a military district that contains more than 25% of Russian military, whilst also having conversations with the deputy defense minister. Bear in mind, these are some of the most important, influential, and senior members of the Russian military, and they are openly collaborating with Wagner in his revolution. And it's not just the inside Russian leaders that are now collaborating with the Wagner Group. It's also being rumored that the CIA also convinced the Wagner chief that Putin planned to arrest him, promising support if Wagner topples Putin. All while the CIA actively feeds troops real-time intel on the Russian military. And what's even more insane was that in a leaked audio recording, Prigozhin claimed, quote, "Where soldiers meet us, the Russian guards and military police wave their hands cheerfully," with the Wagner Group claiming that Putin made the, quote, "wrong choice and that soon Russia will have a new president." So Putin quickly came out publicly, calling Prigozhin a traitor, adding that this is, quote, "a stab in the back of our country and our people."
Боевых товарищей, которые сражаются сейчас на фронте. Это удар в спину нашей стране и нашему народу.
Immediately, security measures have been strengthened throughout Moscow. All the most important facilities, state authorities, and transport infrastructure facilities have been taken under increased protection according to law enforcement agencies. And of course, it didn't take long after Putin's speech for Russian air support to reportedly bomb Wagner vehicles on the highway leading to Moscow, all while the Wagner Group has shot down multiple Russian helicopters. And so it seemed like a full-on conflict is unfolding within the Russian nation. But then everything just stopped. From being on the brink of a revolution, the situation just suddenly went back to normal. But we all know that this is far from normal, and the consequences of this are catastrophic for Russia, and there's just so many reasons why. Reasons that haven't been spoken about by anyone. But to understand why, we need to look at why this actually happened. What's going on here? Is this just a psyop to cover Russia's biggest offensive in Ukraine? Is this the beginning of World War III? Is this a play by China and America? Or is there really a revolution unfolding in Russia as I speak? Well, to understand which situation is really happening here, let's have a look at how this began. But before we continue, I want to tell you about our new sponsor, Bloom.io. You see, if you've ever done any kind of freelance work, you'll know that duct taping disjointed tools to run your business results in hair loss, dropped balls, and a subpar experience for your clients. And if you aren't already using Bloom, you have to check it out. It's the #1 business workspace for independent business owners, and everyone's raving about it, including freelance experts like Chris Do, Jamie Brindle, Alexandra Fasulo, and so many others. Because Bloom elegantly connects your leads, invoicing, digital payments, contract signing, task management, and even asset delivery all on one beautiful platform. The interface is modern, easy to use, and the package only starts at $11 a month. And using my link, you'll have a free 7-day trial. And securing a client can be complicated and burdensome. However, Bloom is a revolutionary CRM, allowing you to give your clients a seamless booking experience, allowing you to select a package and add-ons, schedule a date and time, sign a contract, and even make a payment, where you can turn a week of back and forth emails into one easy-to-use booking form. A booking form for every kind of service you offer, where you can create contract templates and select which ones needs to be signed when using the instant booking form. And they even let you integrate your Google Calendar and set custom availability. So if you're looking to book mini sessions, Bloom allows you to whitelist specific days and times for the booking. And consistent follow-ups are the key to great customer service. And that's why you can use Bloom to create custom automated emails for all of your business needs, send payment reminders, form questionnaires, birthday messages, or any other kind you need, all while giving you the peace of mind knowing that everything is getting done even while you're sleeping. So use my code bloom.io/moon with the promo code moon25 to create your account and get 25% off today. Just click the link in the description below. The quote civil war began after Putin's order to neutralize the most combat-ready unit in Russia for the sake of one or two traitors. However, of course, the full story is much deeper than this. With the slow, unmoving offensive in Ukraine, things were getting heated within the Russian military. The Wagner Group in particular was losing key, highly trained troops in Ukraine, all for a war that was only meant to last a few weeks.
We will now suffer serious losses. I am absolutely certain of it. Now we are certainly losing some Russian territory.
So the Wagner Group chief Prigozhin was apparently in heated disagreements with the military leaders in charge of the Ukraine offensive for almost all of 2023 and even parts of 2022. And as these disagreements grew, the Wagner chief announced a march for justice, leading to the beginning of what we're seeing right now.
Once a Putin ally claims that he has left Ukraine at the head of a column of troops and has crossed into Russia in some sort of a challenge to the Russian defense minister with whom he's been waging a war of words since the outset of the Russian invasion of Ukraine last year.
However, this begs the question, who actually is the Wagner Group? Well, you've probably never heard of them before until now, and that's for a reason. The Wagner Group is a private military network made up of ex-Russian special forces. Now, the origins remain largely a secret, as the soldiers are mostly anonymous and untraceable. However, the group is clearly led by Putin, a Russian oligarch with close ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin. And the group is insanely powerful, with their operations spanning across mining companies, political institutions, and of course their private military force that acts as Putin's frontline agents for Russia's global strategy, including diverting attention from the Russian government's activities. Although for years they've technically not been employed by the Russian government, as they're set up in Argentina, as private military contractors like the Wagner Group are completely banned in Russia. However, of course, it seems like this is a big exception, as the Wagner Group is known for targeting countries and doing the bidding of the Russian government, but specifically operations that the Russian government doesn't want to be attached to. Over the past decade, the group has expanded its reach to at least 4 continents, including Africa, where it's operated in at least 18 different countries, providing training to local militaries on how to conduct military strategies and counterinsurgency tactics. And these tactics are often brutal. One notable example of the Wagner Group's influence is in Mali, a country that has experienced 3 coups in just 9 years. You see, after France began withdrawing its army in 2021, Mali is believed to have contracted Wagner troops to help fight against rebels and secure power, and satellite imagery suggests that the group arrived quietly in December 2021 and swiftly built a very strong military presence. And since their arrival, the Wagner Group was linked to violent incidents and even civilian deaths in Mali, using brutal torture techniques and anything possible to get the job done. However, they've also been involved in military interventions to support local dictators backed by Russia. For example, the Wagner Group's relationship with Sudan is just an example of Russia expanding their global reach across Africa. The relationship began in 2017 and has continued under the country's military rule, as the Wagner Group has been training Sudanese soldiers and operating gold plants in Sudan in exchange for weapons and training, all while giving Russia more strategic importance across the entire globe. But more importantly, the Wagner Group has made the billionaire oligarch chief even more rich and powerful, allowing it to only recently become a legal entity with headquarters in St. Petersburg. And while Putin has denied links to Wagner Group activity, Prigozhin has started speaking publicly about his role, because they became a key force for Russia in Ukraine. I mean, just in the first week of the Ukraine offensive, the Wagner Group went through with 2 assassination attempts on the Ukraine President Zelensky. And as the group is made up of ex-Secret Service soldiers, they've been incredibly effective in pushing Russia's offensive. However, as the war went on, as grave mistakes were made, and the supposed few weeks it would take to annex Ukraine went on for a year and a half, the Wagner Group started to turn against the Russian military, and in particular against Putin himself. A key reason for this is that Russia has been under significant economic pressure for years, due to a whole bunch of factors, including Western sanctions recently. I mean, the huge sanctions that were placed on Russia completely decimated the oligarch's wealth, all while making it far harder for the country to attract foreign investment, and completely restricting its access to global financial markets. Now, initially the sanctions were placed after Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, and were expanded in response to other actions, including the country's alleged meddling in the 2016 US elections, and then the supposed poisoning of a former Tsar Sergei in the UK in 2018. However, of course, more recently, the huge sanctions that were imposed in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine have completely crippled the economy, isolating Russia from the rest of the world economically. But this wasn't the only pressure within Russia. There have been a growing number of reports of bubbling discontent within the Russian military and broader society against Putin, with the big part of this coming from the ongoing war in Ukraine. And in particular, the chief of the Wagner Group has his own personal motivations for escalating this conflict with the Russian military. After months of bitter disagreements, it's become clear that he has a desire for greater power or influence within Russia. And now is the perfect time, with Russia's economy being crippled, its military strategy falling, and support from the CIA. It seems like this is all the perfect factors for Prigozhin to expand his power. And as Prigozhin has taken an increasingly public role in the war in Ukraine, his public support in wider Russian society has been growing at a faster rate than Putin, and this increased visibility and fame has probably boosted his own interest in taking on the Russian leadership. And so with all of these mounting pressures, it was undoubtedly clear Russia was becoming incredibly unstable at its core, and with bitter disagreements in military leadership worsening, the Ukraine war slowing down, Russia's economy shriveling, and someone was going to have to take on Putin. And so it wasn't really a surprise that the Wagner chief would be quick to order revenge on the Russian government, after claiming that a supposed huge number of his forces were killed by the Russian military, going so far as to accuse Russia of bombing his military sites in Ukraine. And despite the Russian defense minister claiming that there is no truth to this claim, this doesn't really matter. Prigozhin is using all of these pressures and all of the growing hatred towards Putin as the perfect attempt to gain power, leading for him to say, quote, those who destroyed our guys today, who destroyed tens of thousands of lives of Russian soldiers, will be punished. With Igor Girkin, an ex-Russian Federal Security Serviceman, stating, quote, "The military coup attempt has begun, leading to what we're witnessing today." The Wagner chief claimed, quote, "To avoid bloodshed, we are returning our convoys to bases." The following statement from Prakashan, the leader of Wagner Group and the orchestrator of the recent coup, claimed, "The intention was to disassemble PMC Wagner. On June 23rd, we stepped out for the March of Justice, and in one day we advanced nearly 200 kilometers from Moscow, without shedding any of our men's blood. Now the situation could escalate to bloodshed, and recognizing the potential for Russian blood to be spilled, we're reversing our convoys and heading back to our field camps as per the plan." Now this might have come after Belarusian President Lukashenko spent the day in negotiations with Prakashan, ultimately claiming credit for orchestrating a peace agreement between the two. With the full statement of Lukashenko's press services saying, quote, "Negotiations continued throughout the day. As a result, they came to agreements on the inadmissibility of unleashing a bloody massacre on the territory of Russia." Prakashan accepted the proposal of the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, to stop the movement of armed persons of the Wagner Company in Russia and take further steps to de-escalate tensions. As Prakashan accepted Lukashenko's terms, agreeing to halt the advancement of his forces and retreat to his bases, ensuring the security of the Kremlin, and also Wagner's combatants. And so, just in a couple of hours, this attempted coup just faded away, with Prakashan and his forces preparing to return to their bases as normal. And not just from Moscow, but also from Rostov. Russian news outlets report that all criminal charges against Prakashan have been dismissed, and he, along with his forces, will be granted full immunity. And all movement restrictions imposed on vehicles in the Voronezh region, which was the site of earlier clashes during the coup, have now also been lifted. And in return, reports have come out that the Russian Ministry of Defense will go through major changes to stop the Wagner's advances, with Russian state media now claiming the current defense minister and army chief of general staff will be changed, even though Russia is still at war with Ukraine, and this will certainly harm the chain of command that is essential to their success in Ukraine. But this makes you think, is a private military contractor in charge of who runs the Russian government? Are they the ones now picking who works in the Ministry of Defense? Are they the ones now deciding Russia's military strategy? Who actually has the power in Russia right now? Is the Wagner chief the de facto leader of Russia? And if so, how can Russia possibly continue with this? As this is the emergence of a multipolar Russia, and Putin won't take this lightly. While on the surface he claims that the Wagner Group will be given security guarantees, this seems highly unlikely, as no one who's challenged Putin politically has ever survived today, and no one has weakened Putin's position on the international stage and national stage quite as much as this, as one of the strongest militaries in the world was almost completely taken over, an unprecedented move that hasn't happened during Putin's reign. Even after the coup, Russian people have been chanting, and it seems like public support for them is at an all-time high. However, even with all of this chaos, it's very possible that Putin actually has a strategy here, as this has caused the Russian people to rally to end the war in Ukraine quickly, whilst also allowing Putin to accrue a list of all the traitors in his ranks, whilst also giving him the ability to enact martial law powers within Russia. All while Prakashan has been able to leave Belarus, being given this promise by Putin himself. And so it makes you think there must be a reason for this. It's a classic Russian strategy, and that's why I believe as time goes by, the possibility of this being a psyop is more and more likely, as all the traitors will be expunged, Putin's control of Russia will be tightened, the Ukraine war will be fueled by a greater sense of urgency, inadvertently making Russia stronger, all while looking weaker to the outside world, which is a perfect political strategy that goes as far back as Sun Tzu's Art of War, to appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak, all while this whole situation uncovers a bunch of CIA operatives working within Russia's ranks and playing the West like a fiddle. And so by having this coup happen, it has allowed Putin to purge all of the weaknesses within the military and government that may have been slowing down Russia's progress, all whilst possibly giving Putin more and more power. But for now, only time will tell.